So while President Biden is meeting with the German chancellor today, U.S. troops are arriving in Eastern Europe. Putin is building forces on the Ukrainian border. He's also meeting with President Xi in Beijing. He's also meeting with the French president today. And I think we're going to see, Mike, how deep Putin's claws are in Europe. He's made them dependent on Russian gas and oil. And any firm rebuke to Putin is going to be an expensive one politically and literally for any of these European leaders, isn't it?
No, absolutely. And look, that shouldn't be a surprise to anybody who spends time watching this part of the world. One of Putin's few leverage points is the energy, and so he has shown over the past that he's not afraid to use energy as a pressure point, whether we're talking about Germany, talking about Hungary at this point, or anywhere else. So I think that was fully expected. I am afraid that we've played into his hand in this case by sort of the U.S. administration's energy policies that they've enacted over the past year, which have contributed to driving oil prices up and, getting oil up to $80, $85, $90 a barrel. That allows Putin to spend on his military adventurism.
Yeah, totally different ball game when the price of crude oil goes above $70 a barrel. I believe that's the line of demarcation. So anything above that, Putin is cashing in. Fred, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says a Russian invasion could be imminent. But why does the White House keep changing the language? It's last week, it's imminent, and then it's not imminent, and now it is imminent apparently again. Seems complicated.
Well, John, the way I read that statement, which you just played, he seemed to say Russia might invade or he might not, or it might not. There was we don't know where Jake Sullivan is on this. What exactly is the U.S. position? But I also have to say that these continuous statements that an invasion might be imminent, we're going to really hit Russia with tough sanctions, Russia, you're going to be sorry, here's another red line. But we're not engaging in dialogue with the Russians. We're just throwing threats at them. And this is just for domestic consumption. There's no leadership in Washington from the White House to address this crisis. You know where the leadership is coming from? It's coming from France. It's coming from Macron, who's in Moscow right now, trying to find a way to de-escalate the situation and to stop Russia from drifting towards China. That's something this country should have been doing a long time ago, and I hope Biden will get the message.
Mike, how much confidence should we put in Emmanuel Macron's ability to calm things down? If that's really if that's what's happening here, according to Fred, do we have any confidence in Emmanuel Macron to do this?
Yeah, look, I agree with Fred completely. Particularly on this issue of the statements coming out of the White House. For Sullivan to say, an invasion could be within days, it could be within weeks, maybe, diplomacy will work and it won't happen at all. That's, my 10-year-old boy Muggsy could have come up with that statement. But when you're talking about Macron, look, it's always important to have dialogue, right? So you never want to dismiss that. And diplomacy is critically important alongside all the other elements that you have to put in place to try to prevent a military further incursion. So, the President Biden is also meeting with the German Chancellor. Look, Germany has no real interest in getting sideways with Russia. And even though they're an important member of NATO, I think we've all seen at this point that, the idea that somehow Germany would risk its energy stability is probably fairly minimal. So I'm not sure that we should count on anything coming out of this meeting between Biden and the German Chancellor. I do believe that Macron is doing his best. I think it's an important effort. So I don't want to diminish that at all.
Another person I want to talk about, Fred, is the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. He's meeting in Moscow today with Vladimir Putin. He signaled some sympathy for Russia and its standoff with the West over Ukraine. What are we supposed to do with Viktor Orban in this situation?
This is not a good situation. Orban has been snubbed and isolated by Europe and the United States, I might add, for good reason, because of his undermining of democratic institutions in Hungary. But the idea that a Hungarian leader would be siding with Russia is just so unbelievable. But Hungary is dependent on Russia for energy. And that's why Hungary is bucking NATO and the United States, not just on dealing with Putin, but also on supporting Ukraine. It's just a stunning development.
And this is really what we're talking about. This is what's at play here. Some of these other countries, you could not imagine that Hungary would side with Russia in a situation like that. But here we are, Mike. And it's not just Hungary. You know, you got Belarus, you got other countries as well. And they're going to be looking to the West to see what happens here because, you know, they have to worry about their own fortunes. And they might decide, which is hard, again, hard to believe, that they're better off siding with Russia.
Yeah, look, every nation acts in its own best interest, you know, at the end of the day. The U.S. tends to be the only one that apologizes for doing that on a regular basis. But so when Hungary, Orban has a history of kind of flip-flopping and going whichever way the prevailing winds require. He's got an important election coming up, and he's got a fairly unified opposition against him. So the idea that he's going to jeopardize that by, again, you know, getting on the wrong side of the Russians and suddenly finding he can't provide cheap energy to the Hungarians, minimal. I think what Putin has done here, and I still don't think that he's looking to do an actual another military incursion. I think he believes he can get his objectives without that. But I think one of the things that he's done is he has pointed to the reality of NATO, right? The concept of NATO, the theory of NATO has always been sound and very important, but the reality of NATO is somewhat different. And I think that Putin has shown a light on that at this point.
Reality is where we're at right now. And, you know, as a former administration used to say, you have to see things for the way they are, not for the way you want them to be. Fred and Mike, great to see you guys. Thanks so much.
Good to be here.
Thank you.